Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Wednesday, August the 7th. Thanks for hanging out with us here in the Zen Sports Studios. We got a jam-packed, loaded show to get in on all the new things. Calvin Ridley, Will Levis, you're going to hear from Quandre Sweat, you're going to hear from quarterback QB1, and even Quandre Diggs, who spoke to the media today. A lot of different things happening at Titans practice as this team continues to get ready for its first preseason action of the year, coming up on Saturday at Nissan Stadium. So we'll go through those things. We'll talk a little bit about Ridley and Levis, the growth and development. You'll hear from Diggs because this was his first practice as a Titan, and then we'll wrap things up with a little bit of rising and falling, stock up, stock down. Featuring Quandre Sweat today, who has seen his stock consistently improve throughout the course of camp. Always good to have you all in for another episode. Always good when you guys share this show around on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, where Benjamin Buck demands, what is that man doing? We demand to be entertained. Well, don't you worry. I am here with the only thing that I'm lacking as your source of entertainment is my clown nose, which I should probably have as a prop set. I've got what do they call those things? It's just like a toy wooden horse, like a horse head on a stick. You know what I'm talking about? Kids ride around on like the horse head on a stick. I'm doing a bad job describing it. Anyway, we got props in the office. I got a crown. I got a horse head on a stick. Maybe I need a clown nose. Who's to say? We can get crazy with it once the regular season begins. Anyway, share this show around Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Now you're going to make me get up and grab the horse and the crown, aren't you? I guess we got to do it. I've also got a sword in the office, as a matter of fact, and this new mic setup actually allows me to get up and keep talking while we do the primetime show. So we got the crown. See, this is the horse head on a stick that I'm talking about. The people at Steeplechase gave me this. So if you want to be entertained, are you not entertained? Let's go ahead and do the primetime show after you share this show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch, wherever you are hanging out with us. If you're hanging out on Twitter, please retweet the show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. This thing sheds. If you're on Facebook Live, you can share not in public. That's in the bottom left. And if you're on YouTube or Twitch, please subscribe to the channel. Throw a like on the video. Tell a friend to do the same. I wonder if the nay function on this thing still works. Sure does. All right. We're cooking here on a Wednesday night. You wanted to be entertained. There you are. There is your source of entertainment, and I'll see if I can't keep pace for the rest of the evening. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Zen Sports Studios. I'm your host, Hobby Horse, Derek Wright says. Derek Wright says it's called the Hobby Horse. Yes, I was not aware that the Hobby Horse was an actual toy. So shout out Steeplechase for giving me my own Hobby Horse. It just says Phillips Toy Mart. I guess the horse doesn't have a name. Maybe we'll call it Philip. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Zen Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I am proud, as always, to be presented to you by the wonderful people at Zen Sports. Download the app, plug in the promo code ATOZTN. Get in on all the action where betting just got better at zensports.com. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, where you go for your Ford Bronco headquarters. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com for more information. And, of course, TrueMav Fitness in the Gulch, where you go for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. TrueMav Fitness has you covered. Okay, so we got William Jones says Phillips Toy Mart is a toy store in Belmead, SMH. Well, that makes sense because this is from the Iroquois Steeplechase. They give me all kinds of gifts when I host their VIP tailgate. One of them is my very own Hobby Horse from Phillips Toy Store in Toy Mart, rather. Excuse me, I better get the branding right. Phillips Toy Mart in Belmead. But we're not here to talk hobby horses or steeplechase tonight. We are here to talk about what has been going on in Titans practice, and it was a jam-packed, loaded day. So we had a lot of different things going on. Of course, Quandre Diggs was the headline. Well, there's a couple of different headlines, as a matter of fact, with everything that's going on, because Sadiq Charles retired, your starting right guard. We talked last night. Quandre Diggs, who was also signed to be your starting safety, took part in his first practice. It was the fifth session in a row that the Titans practiced in full pads. So you had receivers and you had DBs working in one-on-one drills in the red zone. You had offensive linemen and defensive linemen working on drills with the pass rush, and specifically that was the emphasis, right? They had an unscripted period called Move the Ball with all three quarterbacks getting work, and that is where we are going to start with the quarterback, with the starting quarterback, and Calvin Ridley, because a part of the thing that we've been talking about right now, or as we ramp up towards preseason and regular season and all the other things that are going to take place, is Will Levis, Calvin Ridley, and how they are going to kind of vibe, gel, grow the connection, find ways to be an efficient and effective quarterback, wide receiver, weaponry, just an effective offensive unit featuring a legitimate star wide receiver. And I do believe Calvin Ridley to be a legitimate star wide receiver. So before we get into all the other things, because there are some offensive line questions, there are some defensive line questions with Arden Key's suspension still looming out there. And of course, everything that's going on with the DeAndre Hopkins injury as we await his return, 4 to 6 weeks, the timeline. There's a lot of different things that you have to work with and a lot of things to keep your eye on. And one of the things that we were keeping an eye on early in camp was this idea that Levis, it looked to us, at least from an untrained eye, it looked to us like Levis was overshooting a lot of the wide receivers on go routes and kind of trying to figure out his timing and his accuracy and throwing to a spot as opposed to throwing to the wide receiver, right? So it's not just with Ridley, but Ridley is one that he's having to learn this year because he's a new player and also he's faster than any wide receiver Will Levis has ever played with, and there is a legitimate adjustment to how to get both cycling in the same motion, right? And that is something that Will Levis and Calvin Ridley and the rest of the offense have been trying to work up towards. So we talked to Brian Callahan today about it. We had a non-televised press conference, which is a new thing this year for just like the writers and reporters like myself, like PK, like Tehran, like Rex Road. And then for the TV people, we will also participate, the print media. I mean, I guess I'm technically print media, even though I haven't done anything in print in God knows how long. I can't tell you, maybe student newspaper is the last time anything that I wrote went out into actual print. But there will be another press conference tomorrow with Brian Callahan. But this session was no video, on the record, and a more relaxed setting for us to try and get more information, which I'm really enjoying so far. We've done 2 of them, and I do think that they're productive. A lot of different injury updates were included in this particular session that we had. And one of the talking points was Amar says, you write for A to Z all the time, Buck. I know, but A to Z, A to Z is technically print, but A to Z is digital, right? A to Z does not have a physical publication that goes out like a flyer or something like that. I do believe we have a newsletter, a digital newsletter. So I know, print, digital, you know what I mean. So with that being said, the Calvin Ridley thing and how they're trying to work through it with Will Levis is something that has been a talking point, right? How are they going to get on the same page in a way that's efficient and effective as quarterback and wide receiver one? So the question that I'm going to ask you is this on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. What are you most excited about Calvin Ridley for heading into this season? Or what most excites you about Calvin Ridley heading into 2024? We'll talk about it together on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Right after I remind you that the Primetime program and your Two Rivers Ford Take is presented by the South's most trusted Ford dealer and your Ford Bronco headquarters, Two Rivers Ford, where they invite you to come try out the Ford Bronco, whether it's the Ford Bronco or the smaller Ford Bronco Sport. There are so many great options for you to enjoy. You don't even have to be in the market for a vehicle. Two Rivers Ford and their non-commissioned sales team just want to educate you on the options that the Ford Bronco has at its disposal, whether it's new or certified pre-owned. Two Rivers Ford always sells their new non-specialty Fords below MSRP. So go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com for more information. Bork says that I'm going to start the A to Z Gazette. Well, that would be moving backwards as opposed to forwards. Excuse me, there's that pesky cough again. And I think it's all the dust that's been on this damn hobby horse. I don't think I've pulled it out of that corner in 2.5 years since they gave it to me a couple steeplechases ago. So I think that's what I'm currently breathing in and trying to get through. But I think that there's a lot of different things to be excited about with Calvin Ridley. He made a couple of highlight reel catches today. He has consistently done that throughout the course of camp. He is truly an excellent player. He was the star of the show today at practice. Couple of big plays, spinning catches on the sideline. He managed to keep both of his feet in bounds. He made a similar play later in practice on the opposite sideline away from the media. He also caught a 50-yard bomb down the field from Will Levis during team. Jim Wyatt of TennesseeTitans.com had him tracked at 5 catches on the day. It was his biggest one-day production in camp thus far. Calvin Ridley has been excellent. So for Will Levis to have a bona fide wide receiver one, Hopkins is a bona fide wide receiver one for certain, but there is a substantial difference in the way that Ridley plays and operates versus the way that Hopkins plays and operates. And I do think that you need both of them, right, to be the kind of offense that they want this unit to be. And we'll see how much longer it takes Hop to get back. But to hear Will Levis talk about Calvin Ridley today, thought it was pretty insightful.
Look at the back shoulder, you look at the deep pass. Like, what does a day like today with all these connections with Ridley, like, what does that do for the chemistry and confidence?
Yeah, those are just a couple types of connections we haven't really been able to hit too consistently here during camp. So that was definitely great for the confidence. I'm getting more and more comfortable with him every single day. Hitting the deep one down the red line was one we've been working on, and to get it in sync, get it in rhythm. I'm excited to watch the tape, and I think it's going to look exactly like we drew it up. So that's what you love, and you got to make plays like the back shoulder and have a feel for that. And so to get those reps are really valuable. And I know that we're going to have to make plays like that if this team wants to be successful.
Is there a chemistry with the offensive line, specifically with the two new guys now on the first group on the offensive line on the right side? Is there a chemistry between the quarterback and the line the way that there is a chemistry between the quarterback and the pass catchers?
Yes, I'd say so to a certain extent. It's knowing your strengths and weaknesses of your guys. I think I could point to a couple things of just knowing maybe where it's more so based on the defense and what their moves are and the kind of pressures that we're expecting and pass rush moves as to where they potentially could get, lose some leverage, and that could affect where, our escape pattern is or where our movement in the pocket could be. But I don't think that there's as much as a technical chemistry as there is with the guys you have to have outside, just with how precise a lot of those throws have to be. But it's more of a feel thing. You're not really looking at the guy. Obviously, it's feeling where he is in space and being able to move off of that and have comfortability to move in any direction regardless of what happens.
That is Will Levis speaking earlier today. Sorry, I was muted there. About a couple of different things, about the wide receivers, about Ridley specifically, and how they had missed some of those opportunities early on in camp. I'll let you know what Brian Callahan had to say about how they've been kind of working on that with both Ridley and Levis here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMathFitness.com. Your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled, no workout ever repeated. That is the TrueMath Fitness promise. They will always go above and beyond to put you in position to achieve your fitness goals. No matter what your level of fitness is, trust and know that TrueMath Fitness has you covered. Go to TrueMathFitness.com for more information today. Okay, so looking at what Ridley and Levis have been able to grow and develop on, the deep ball has been one of them. And in particular, the go routes that they're having Ridley run within the scope of the offense. So what Brian Callahan told us today is that they've been showing them cut-ups. They've been showing them cut-ups of the wide receivers that Brian Callahan has used in his previous offenses, not just Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Guys like Emmanuel Sanders and, rest in peace, Demaryius Thomas with Peyton Manning during Brian Callahan's time with the Denver Broncos. Detroit Lions, Matt Stafford and Marvin Jones, who was a really, really effective player in that offense while Brian Callahan was there. They also mentioned CeeDee Lamb and a couple of other players. Anquan Bolden as well had a few where they found ways to kind of articulate the timing and the accuracy required and how they want these routes specifically run. So I thought that was a cool note today from Brian Callahan, and you've seen the dividends of it now today in practice specifically. So let's move from Will Levis and Calvin Ridley to Quandre Diggs, who also spoke to the media today, and you will hear from him in just a moment. The question that I'm going to ask you there on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch, if you are so inclined to participate, is this: as you look at the Titans defense, where does Quandre Diggs fit? How does Quandre Diggs fit? What is the best fit for Quandre Diggs in this Titans defense? We'll talk about it together on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, like I said. And we will hear from Quandre Diggs here in just a moment. But he is on a snap count. He's going to be cycled up. They have not made a determination. It is unlikely. I would not expect him to play too many, if any, snaps for the Titans in the preseason, though, they may feel comfortable enough with where he's at. He's a veteran player. Denard Wilson is a very, very hands-on coach and certainly will do everything that he can to get him up to speed prior to Saturday. But I don't know if they're going to be willing to toss him out there right away. Brian Callahan mentioned that he would disclose more about preseason playing time tomorrow on Thursday when we meet with him in a more formal setting. So with all this, where does Quandre Diggs fit within the scope of the defense? In the comment section, you can respond. We've got a few. Devin Mills says Diggs at free safety and Hooker at strong safety, where he belongs. Lamar Daniels says, Vanessa is talking with Lamar Daniels in the comment section on Facebook. I got a little confused there. Valentine says, I think Adams going to be down in the box more due to Arden Key's suspension. Well, neither of them. Well, actually, Arden Key is practicing. Jamal Adams is not right now. They're calling it soreness, and that's all well and good. But Jamal Adams already on a management plan after having a couple of days of padded practice and now has missed 3 days with that soreness. Alex says he keeps thinking that's his phone. Yeah, I'm sorry. I keep getting texts. And with the new laptop, I need to just take time to get in the settings and figure out how the hell to turn it off on my laptop. And now I'm getting old because I don't know how to do that anymore seamlessly. Anyway, so with all these different things that the Titans have at their disposal, Quandre Diggs is one of them. This was Quandre Diggs speaking at the press conference after practice today.
And it's been a process, It's been a couple-month process of, dialogue, every week. Rand, Denard, my agent, myself. So it's been a process, but it was definitely the best place for me, in the fact of just knowing, the caliber of Coach Denard is, you hear it around the league, you see it. Obviously, I got friends that he's coached that spoke highly of him. So it's just one of those things where it worked out, and, he really wanted me here and I wanted to be here also.
Quandre Diggs speaking with the media earlier today. So that does not necessarily describe how he fits. So if we want more details, where should we go? We should go to the tape. We should go to Greg Cosell of NFL Films, who is one of the foremost insiders and experts on the way that NFL schematics are run. And aren't you just the luckiest people in the world? Because you know what I do every Wednesday? I do a podcast with that gentleman, Greg Cosell. It's called The Install, and we talked about Quandre Diggs and his fit in the defense, as well as a lot of other stuff with Greg today. He's ahead, and then they signed Quandre Diggs to come in and play safety. Certainly, they've been in need of safety help, and we knew that the Jamal Adams signing would not be the solution ultimately, if a more situational player. Quandre Diggs, a really solid player going back to not just his most recent stop in Seattle, but where he was drafted in Detroit. Really like Really liked talking to him for the first time today, Greg. But what does the player, what stands out about the player?
Really good player. I mean, he's essentially been for the last 4 years, and I don't think he's missed a game in 4 years, if memory serves me correctly. But he's essentially been a post safety, although last year they played a lot more split safety, so he did play that. He also played down in the box at times. So he's a multi-dimensional safety, but he's really good playing on the back end. And they probably needed that because even though Amani Hooker is a good player, a real savvy, smart player, he's not the high-level athlete that you feel comfortable snap after snap with him being a post safety. So Diggs is a really good signing. He'll start for sure. And now they have a solid safety tandem in Diggs and Hooker. And, the other key thing, and you never know, it's football, but he's been a very durable player. So hopefully that continues. He's obviously getting a little older. Some might remember he came out of Texas and he was a slot corner. And he was a slot corner for his first couple of years in the league with the Detroit Lions before he made the move to Seattle, became a safety, and has been a very, very good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly has been adept at helping create turnovers within that scheme. Obviously, he reunites with Jamal Adams, who he knows very well. Apparently, they had been. Don't need to hear me ramble any more than you already get to hear me ramble, but that was a portion of our conversation with Greg Cosell today. In fact, we just dropped the link to the latest episode of the Install Podcast for you to subscribe to on Spotify, also available on Apple or the 104.5 The Zone YouTube channel if you want to watch Greg and I chop it up. By the way, speaking of the install, next week, Greg Cosell is going to be in town for both days of Titans Seattle Seahawks joint training camp practice. You're going to get 2 episodes of the install next week with Greg, and you're going to get them live on the radio show and on Thursday on the radio show, not tomorrow, though we will have a pretty big guest. And when I mean pretty big, I mean literally pretty big. JC Latham is on the radio show tomorrow. But next Thursday, Latham tomorrow, Levis next week after Seattle Seahawks joint training camp practices. Greg Cosell will participate in the interview. We'll get a bunch of good football insights from Will with a smarter person like Greg to ask Will football questions that I am not smart enough to ask him myself. And I will just be there to facilitate and, slap my name on the radio show and take all the credit and all the glory for all of these things, right? That's how this thing works. Looking forward to it. Make sure you check out the interview with Latham tomorrow on 104.5 The Zone. You're, in fact, going to hear a portion of my talk with Devondre Sweat that we did on the radio show today, live from training camp practice. Because, again, aren't you so lucky that I get to give you all of these things, and you can always find them right here on the Primetime Show. Anyway, so that is what Diggs' fit looks like in this defense. And frankly, he immediately becomes the best safety on the defense. Amani Hooker is more versatile in what it is that he can do, both playing in big nickel, playing both safety roles. He can be a kick returner and a punt returner, as a matter of fact. Amani Hooker is a very versatile player. But as far as the safety position goes, Quandre Diggs is a significantly more accomplished safety than is Amani Hooker. And now the two of them will get the opportunity to work together. And there'll probably be some 3 safety looks, right? Elijah Molden is still in the equation. They've got guys like Matt Jackson, who may not be the best player, but can give you a little something and have experience now. Shy Carter on the roster, who has been not really discussed, but you don't want to be a defensive back that's being talked about a lot because that usually means that something's wrong. Defensive backs, offensive linemen. If we're talking about you a lot, it's probably a problem. So with all of this, Quandre Diggs immediately upgrades the Titans defense because now they have 2 top-line safeties, more in the mold of what they used to have when Kevin Byard was at the peak of his powers and Amani Hooker was on his rookie contract. So all of these things very, very interesting and worth keeping an eye on. They will have another padded practice tomorrow. I'll be out there doing the radio show, obviously. JC Latham is the guest, as I mentioned, and we will probably hear from a great deal, many other players tomorrow because just Will Levis and Quandre Diggs spoke today in a press conference setting, though I know a couple of people caught up with some other players coming off the field, like Dylan Radins, for example, on the opportunity that lies ahead for him at right guard. This is while we are in the thick of training camp, this is still a pretty fluid situation with the roster, which is going to be fascinating to see. Hallow, is it Halo or Hallow? Either way, says, what time is JC coming on? Well, the players always come on after practice, and practice usually ends about 10:30 a.m. Central Time. So I would anticipate somewhere around 10:40, 10:45 is typically when we've been getting them. And if you miss them in the 10 o'clock hour, we have been replaying portions of them at the very least, if not the entire interview, again in the noon hour, because that's our biggest hour and we want the most amount of people to hear these interviews. So we got 2 NFL games on tomorrow night, as Pylon points out. That's exciting. So happy to have NFL football back in our lives. In fact, I'll be working this Saturday. I'll be working an NFL football game. Niners and Titans. Gave away a couple of tickets. Actually, we've given away 4 different tickets to Titans and Niners on the radio show. Yet another reason to listen to the radio show all week long, because we always have tickets to home games to give away, and that is well worth your time. But we get now to the end of the primetime show with a little bit of rising, a little bit of falling. Whose stock rose, whose stock fell this week in sports? Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You guys let me know, and I will give you mine here in just a second. Alex Blaine Mann says, will you be at the game Saturday? I'm always at the game, baby. That's my job. If there were no games, I would have no job. I exist. Well, I don't exist for Sundays. I exist for, all these different shows that they got me hosting to basically be an infomercial for you from game to game, which I'm happy to do because they take really good care of me and it's the best gig in the world. But the reason that I exist is for Sundays, or in this case, technically Saturdays. But I cover all the games. I travel with the team and do home, away, playoff, preseason, all of it. I got you covered wherever the Titans are at. So, rising and falling, whose stock rose, whose stock fell this week in sports? Let me know. While you do, I will tell you that the Primetime program is made possible by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Go to GaryAshton.com. Get your dream address without the stress. The intel edge you need to succeed can only be found with the official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators, and that is GaryAshton.com. I know we're getting towards the end of the show because Frank just came in here, belly rolled next to the chair, and is demanding dinner. So I know that we are getting near the end. Perhaps Francis will make an appearance if everybody behaves. Yogi says Buck hates attending Titans games. He'd much rather be at a Colts game. Well, here is the only reason. Fine, Yogi, I'll fuel your conspiracy theories if you want. The only reason that I would prefer to be at a Colts game than a Titans game in any situation is because they have the one thing that you do not. They have a covered stadium. They have AC. I don't like being outside and doing preseason football in August. I do a pregame show outside of the stadium. And listen, there's a lot worse jobs in the world, like I said, than sitting outside of a stadium 3 hours before kickoff with two incredibly talented former football players in Blaine Bishop and Brad Hopkins, doing a pregame show for an NFL game and then going in and covering an NFL game afterwards. But Lucas Oil is a dome. I like domes. I'm not a fan of the elements. I don't like the sweat. I don't like Nashville in August in the heat when I'm wearing a jacket and a sports coat and slacks and all these other things. So yeah, prefer the dome, and you're getting one, but not for a couple of years. Prefer the dome. Lucas Oil is by far a superior facility than Nissan Stadium, but I don't even think the most staunch Titans fans wouldn't acknowledge that Nissan Stadium is kind of falling apart at the seams. I mean, hell, your team is acknowledging that. That's why they're building it. But not all dome stadiums are great. There's plenty of shitty dome stadiums out there, but fewer and fewer nowadays because they're all building new stadiums right now. I don't know if you saw the Cleveland Browns new stadium announcement, but I think that is it's all trending in the direction of, can we build one of these facilities that can host events 365 days a year that are not going to be impacted by the elements, including football? So that is what it is. So Bork says, Buck hates Sweat. We heard it here first. Joke's on you, because I already had Quandre Sweat on the radio show. So you know that I don't hate him. In fact, I very much respect him because what he did today, beyond dominating Titans camp, because he's been kicking ass out there. The football player, Quandre Sweat, is as advertised. This man is unblockable, really, in certain situations. He's doing it to veterans. He's doing it to rookies. He's doing it to Lloyd Cushenberry. He's doing it to J.C. Latham, right? Nobody is safe from Big T Sweat on the football field. It turns out, big fella's a mama's boy, and he is my rising stock up candidate of the week. This is courtesy of our conversation with Quandre Sweat today on the radio show. Because I saw obviously the story that Jimmy Wyatt did on you and the house that you bought for your mother and how important she is obviously in 100%. Your life. For people who may not have had the opportunity, you can read it at TennesseeTitans.com. Jimmy did a great job, of course, documenting the situation. What was that like? What was the process like? When did you know that you were going to do that for, or has that always been kind of in the back of your head, with the NFL dream?
Crazy story. I've been to what I was going to do with my first check, and that's give my mom a house, her dream home, and I'm a big mama's boy, man. This part of the reason why I do it is because of my mom. I wouldn't be here without my mom, and all the situations I had in life and all the adversity I had in life. Without that woman, like I said, I wouldn't be here. And funny story, the hurricane happened in Houston. The house she was looking at, the one she got, we told her somebody had got it.
That's cruel.
Yeah.
He said, no, Mom.
Yeah,
that one's off the mark.
Yeah, because she went to go look at the website again, because that's her dream home, and it said pending. And she's like, she texted me, she's like, the house gone? I was like, yeah, Mom, somebody got the house.
That's cold-blooded, man.
Yeah, so the whole time I had it. She didn't know.
So that is Quandre Sweat on the radio show earlier today, and that is going to do it for us tonight on the primetime program because, as I said, I have people waiting on me, including Sweet Frank, who is not about the business this evening. She is very unhappy with me because she has not yet had her dinner, which is why she's crawled up into my lap and is sitting here waiting very, very patiently. So have a great rest of your night. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning on the radio show. We're back live at training camp. Look at that. You got a crown. You got a hobby horse. You got Frank. Who said that you weren't going to be entertained tonight? Who dared to question the entertainment value of the primetime show? I gave you Levis. I gave you Ridley. I gave you T-Sweat. I gave you Quandre Diggs. I gave you a cat, a crown, and a hobby horse. Baby, what more can I do for you? That's why you should tune into the primetime show every night. That's why you should tune in from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. JC Latham, the guest tomorrow. Have a great rest of your evening. Love you guys always. Appreciate you spending your time with us and allowing us to keep you entertained. And we will get back to it at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning on 104.5 The Zone.
Go home! Go home! Go home! You're embarrassing Nashville. Go home!